Honorable Dato Saifuddin Abdullah, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia, Ms. Panuda Bonpala, Deputy Regional Director, International Labour Organization for Asia and the Pacific, colleagues from the Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, members of the press, journalists, reporters, distinguished guests. Let me start by congratulating the Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development and the ILO UN Women's Safe and Fair program for hosting this regional media dialogue on women's labor migration. The European Union is strongly committed to support partner countries in implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, as we call them. This is also highlighted in the European Union strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. The European Union has partnered with the United Nations in 2017 to launch Spotlight Initiative, which is focused on preventing and eliminating all forms of violence against women and girls in targeted regions and countries around the globe. The Spotlight Initiative presents an important opportunity to promote and achieve SDG 5, which runs for Achieve Gender Equality and Empower All Women and Girls, while addressing violence against women and girls at regional and country level. The European Union made an initial investment of 500 million euros to this initiative to support efforts achieving gender equality and women's empowerment. You are here today in the framework of Safe and Fair program, which aims at realizing women migrant workers' rights and opportunities in the ASEAN region, and here in Malaysia as well. This program, which is implemented through a partnership between ILO and UN Women, comes at the intersection of several issues affecting communities, and in particular women and girls in the ASEAN region. It is apt and timely that this regional media dialogue is organized at the start of this year's 16 Days Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign. It will bring a deliberate spotlight on the unique experiences of women migrant workers. Women migrant workers, we know, continue to confront multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination and inequalities, be it gender, language, nationality, migration status, throughout the migration cycle. In Malaysia, for example, labor migration is highly gendered. Women migrant workers are often employed in low-wage sectors such as domestic work, light manufacturing, and services. They do not always enjoy equal rights at work, and there are risks of various forms of violence, harassment, and discrimination. As an example, women migrant domestic workers are excluded from full labor law protections, including entitlements on paid day off, sick leave, annual leave, and maternity protections. Because of the private nature of their workplaces, instances of violence and harassment may go undetected and unreported. During the COVID-19 outbreak, during the pandemic, women affected by violence face more difficulties in accessing essential services, including critical and life-saving health or psychological care, police, justice, or social services. Assessments and research show that the COVID-19 pandemic has increased the risk of violence and harassment against women migrant workers perpetrated by employers, partners, law enforcement officials, or frontline service providers. In Malaysia, the pandemic exposed the scale of precarity of women migrant workers. Loss of income, unemployment, substandard working and living conditions, as well as various instances of exploitation and violence against women migrant workers were reported. At the start of the pandemic, the Talia Kashi hotline for women and children reported a 57% increase in calls, while the national movement control was in effect. The Women's Aid Organization reported a 40% increase in calls about violence to the hotline. Due to psychological distancing and other pandemic response measures, access to support services has become very challenging. Crucially, the pandemic revealed ingrained apprehensions about migrant communities. News coverages reflected this. They capture how migrant workers experience discrimination and how they are stigmatized for directly and indirectly causing the spread of COVID-19 virus in local communities. Apprehensions can very quickly develop into discriminatory attitudes and behavior. They can transcend beyond public opinion into public policy. Migration should be a positive experience to all, to communities in countries of origin and countries of destination as well, to the individual migrant worker. This is why the European Union and the UN support technical cooperation initiatives like the Safe and Fair program to eliminate violence against women and girls, and its efforts to change attitudes and behaviors towards women migrant workers. These efforts include conducting research and expanding knowledge on issues related to women's labor migration. To colleagues from the media, we believe that evidence-based research and knowledge products would support your work in providing accurate and fair reporting to inform and educate the public about women's labor migration. Accurate information and fair representation can prevent misrepresentation of women's labor rights, labor migration. The EU believes that the fight to address discrimination and to end violence against women must be sustained beyond the period of the 16 days campaign. Therefore, I would like to call on you to continue on your efforts, your participation and support to end violence against women with the same energy and vigor throughout the year. At this media dialogue, we are pressed to ask, is violence against women, and specifically violence against women migrant workers, now a universally acceptable act? I believe that there is much work to be done before we can answer in the affirmative. To conclude, I would like to once again extend my appreciation to the IABD, the Safe and Fair program, and their support to all stakeholders for working behind the scene to make sure that the Safe and Fair program and this dialogue run smoothly. I would like to thank all the participants for your attendance to this dialogue and your commitment to ending gender-based violence and to promoting a world of work-free from violence and harassment. I'm pretty certain that the European Union here in Malaysia is going to work very closely with associations in Malaysia and the government of Malaysia in order to address these types of discrimination. Thank you. Terima kasih.